Hi, I'm standing here at the San Francisco Jewish Community Library with what is your name?
Friedner Diamond Whitman.
Okay, and you grew up in Nebraska, where?
Partly in Lincoln and in McCook.
In McCook. I'm interested in getting your memory of Nebraska in McCook because you are the first Jewish person whose family was in farming in Nebraska that I have met. So could you tell me why your family decided to go to Nebraska to homestead? Whose idea was that?
Well, it wasn't my grandparents on my mother's side ended up in McCook in 1898, just after they got married and immigrated to the U.S. My grandmother was from Liverpool. My grandfather was from Austria. They were actually distantly related to each other. And they were originally going to join two of my grandfather's brothers in Illinois. But the two brothers, when they got to Illinois, had headed for the gold fields in Alaska. And
Wow.
had left behind, as payment to a debt in somebody in the town in Illinois, where they were headed, the deed to homestead property in McCook, Nebraska. And they said, look, it's not a good idea to bring your young wife up here to Alaska. Don't try to join us. We don't want that complication. Here, instead, take this homestead deed or this property in Nebraska, and it's kosher. It's real. That's your fortune in America.
I see.
So they ended up out there and successfully farmed what, it started out as a full section, and it ended up, we sold it, finally the family sold it in 2014, 477 acres.
Okay, but the question I have is, did they have any experience in Europe
None.
on
Zero.
farming?
Nada. Zip.
That's pretty gutsy.
Well, a lot of homesteaders, Sooners in Oklahoma did this too. They suddenly had property. Now they became farmers. So what my grandparents did was basically hired local people who knew farming.
I see.
And through poking around, my grandfather found an opportunity in McCook to open a general store to meet the needs not only of people in McCook, but also of farmers in the surrounding area.
I see.
And so he started a store and just became successful at it. Ran the store on B Street in downtown McCook near Maine. The store operated from about 1900 to about 1932, something like that.
What was the
It
store's
killed in the
name?
Depression.
What was the store?
Diamond. It was the Diamond General Store.
I see. Okay.
It was a brick building, unreinforced masonry. Just a single large hall. It had a second floor storage area and a back shop area. Had a big nameplate up on the front eave of the storefront. It just had Diamond on it, the family name. And that store operated successfully until basically the Depression ended up killing it.
I see. Okay. I also was curious as to, in a rural place like McCook or, that area, you want to start a store. Where do you get the capital? How do you get the capital to start a store?
I can't really answer the question of that question. I don't know that history. But knowing my family, he was really active and reached out to people and got to know people.
Okay.
And he probably organized locally some investors. He said, look, I'll do all the work and you'll make all the money. And I've got property out, I've got my homestead sections, which I can put up as collateral.
I see.
And so he probably used the land as collateral to raise the money locally and create a small investor group. He ended up very active in city affairs for McCook. For example, he was on the water board.
Uh-huh.
Briefly.
Uh-huh.
He got off the water board when he didn't want to give the local churches free water. He said, no, they got to pay like everybody else. This is, we have a separation here between church and state, no gifts of public property to religious organizations. And he ended up not staying on the water board that long.
Okay.
That's the apocryphal story anyway. But he was also very active in city affairs, and he was a good business partner along B Street, and he unfortunately passed on. I'm not. The details on this are very murky. I'm not sure exactly when. They never actually lost the store. The store just went vacant, and I think it stopped being profitable during the Depression, but it stayed open for some time.
Well, sure. I mean, those were hard times for everybody.
And meanwhile, a farm family ended up running the farm property in McCook. And that family actually now owns the property.
I see. Okay.
And it's been a very amicable relationship over the years. We were, legally farmers certainly a name, but, tillers of the soil and, minders of the herds and so on, not so much.
You're in good company because, I want to tease you or test you a little bit. Who was the most famous Nebraska writer from Red Cloud?
Willa Cather.
Exactly. And her father did the same thing. He had been a sort of a farmer in Virginia, went to Nebraska. You probably may or may not know. He went to Nebraska. He tried farming, couldn't make it. So he had to go into town and become an insurance man or something like that.
Right.
Couldn't make it. So anyway, what is your name again?
Fried Whitman. Friedner Diamond Whitman.
I see. That's kind of a sort of an English name. What was it before?
Well, the Friedner is my grandmother's maiden name.
Okay.
The Diamond is my grandfather's name.
Okay. Where's Whitman come
from? And Whitman is my father's name. He's from a town in Galicia, which is a whole other story.
Yeah, but there weren't too many Whitmans there. So what was it before?
Well, it's actually a complicated genealogy on my dad's side, and the Whitman may actually be Dutch, Whitteman.
Oh, okay. I got you now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Well, pleasure talking to you.